Welcome to Joy Unfiltered. I'm Rachel, and this is a podcast about joy. Not the shiny, performative kind. Not the everything happens for a reason kind. This is joy as a strategy. A way to stay steady when life feels loud. A way to stay human when things are hard. A way to lead, love, and live without burning out or checking out. Some episodes will be just me. Some will be honest conversations with people who have lived their way into a deeper, truer joy. No fixing, no bypassing, just real stories, real tools, and room to breathe. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome to Joy Unfiltered. It is Rachel, your podcast host, and I am so glad that you are here today. And I don't say that lightly, because if you pressed play on this episode today, there is a good chance that somewhere in your life you are thinking, I should feel happier than I do. I have a good life, so why do I still feel off? Why does joy feel inconsistent, even when things are going well? So before we do anything else, let me say this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not failing at gratitude. You are not missing some secret mindset trick. What's usually missing isn't effort. It's inputs. Joy is not just an emotion. Joy is a biological state. It is shaped by your nervous system, your hormones, your brain chemistry, your daily habits, even your gut. Joy is not something you wait for. Joy is something that you build. And today we're going to talk about the 3 most powerful science-backed inputs for joy that I teach, that I live by, that honestly I've tattooed on my forearm. They are pauses, push-ups, plants. Let me say that again. Pauses. Yep, we're going to talk about pauses, about taking a deep breath, about meditating. Push-ups. We're going to talk about, well, maybe actual push-ups, but we're going to talk about movement and plants. Again, maybe we'll talk about actual plants, but the nutrition that you are putting in your body. So pauses, push-ups, plants. And as we go today, I'm not just going to explain why they work, the science, I am going to show you that, but I'm also going to show you how to use them in real life. So let's get started. And let's start with the one that most people, including myself, skip. Let's talk about pauses. Pauses are not laziness. They're not indulgent. They're not something that you earn. Pauses are how your nervous system resets. Your body operates through 2 primary systems. The sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, urgency, pressure, go, go, go. And the parasympathetic nervous system, rest, digest, connect, repair. Most of us today live almost entirely in that first one. And here's the deal. Your brain does not distinguish between a real physical threat and an email notification, traffic, or your unfinished to-do list. So it stays activated. And when your nervous system stays activated for too long, joy becomes difficult to access. Because joy requires felt safety. And when you pause, even briefly, measurable changes occur. Your heart rate slows. Blood pressure decreases. cortisol begins to drop. The vagus nerve sends signals of safety to the brain. Your blood flow returns to the prefrontal cortex, that area of your brain responsible for emotional regulation, empathy, creativity, and perspective. This is not mindset work. This is neurobiology. So, quick story. A few years ago, I thought I was resting. I would sit on the couch at night. I would put up my feet. I would scroll my phone, answer one last email. I would watch a TV show while thinking about all of the things that I had to do tomorrow. And I told myself, I was resting. My feet were up. I was sitting down. But my body disagreed. I was exhausted. I was tired, but I wasn't sleeping really well. I was seemingly successful, but really kind of devoid of joy. And then someone asked me a simple question. They asked, when was the last time you rested without input? No phone, no TV, no listening to a podcast, no productivity, just stillness. And honestly, I didn't know. And that's when I realized the rest I thought I was doing is not the absence of movement. So rest is not the absence of movement. Rest is the presence of safety. So let's talk a few practical tips. Here is actually how to practice pauses, not just putting your feet up on the couch. So here's one. You could bookend your day. So perhaps you take a pause in the morning and a pause at night. And maybe it's just 60 seconds. Maybe you just sit, close your eyes. Maybe like me, you need to put on a little timer for 60 seconds and just breathe. Second, you can practice some breathing exercises. One of them is exhaling longer than you inhale. So inhale for 4, exhale for 6. That alone signals safety to your nervous system. Try it. Just try it. Third, maybe you take a pause in between tasks and not just the beginning and the end of the day. Maybe at the end of your meeting, when everybody else is gone, you close your eyes. You let your body catch up to your brain. You put your feet on the floor and you take a couple of deep breaths. Or fourth, perhaps you actually reduce input when you rest. Maybe you put your phone away. Maybe you turn the TV off. Maybe you actually sit in silence. Maybe you learn to meditate. And that's what I had to do. I had to actually learn to meditate. And I used Headspace when I started. There are lots of apps out there. I liked Headspace, but what I liked about Headspace is that there are guided meditations, and there's a beginning series that they do or that they have. It was guided, and for me, it removed decision fatigue. I was already making so many decisions. I didn't want to decide how to meditate. So if you use something like that, you don't have to know how to meditate. You don't have to be good at it. That's why it's called the practice of meditating. You just press play and your nervous system follows. I started with 5 minutes. 5 minutes. You can start even slower than that, but I started with 5 minutes. I worked up to 10, then 15, and then 20. But just start small. Why don't we even start right now? I know this is going to be weird on a podcast, but let's start small. Should to close your eyes if you're not driving, put your feet on the floor, inhale through your nose, hold, and then slowly exhale through your mouth. Good. And that's it. That was a quick reset. So pauses. Figure out how to incorporate them in your day. Let's move to push-ups. Push-ups, like I said, maybe actual push-ups, but maybe we are just talking about movement in general. Movement, especially the kind you don't feel like doing at first. I know we're talking about joy, but most people don't avoid movement because they hate it. Honestly, they avoid movement because they've made it too big, too intense, or maybe too loaded with expectations. Really, there was a time in my life when I convinced myself that movement had to look a certain way in order to count. It had to be this long, or I had to lift this heavy, or I was doing it for a certain purpose, like to fit in a particular pair of jeans. And I think I had it all wrong. It didn't have to be impressive, and I didn't have to do it right. But I told myself if those things weren't true, it wasn't worth doing. So I just didn't do it at all. And what I didn't realize was this: my body wasn't resisting movement. My brain was resisting inconsistency. So every time I went all in, I burned out. I taught my nervous system a lesson. And the lesson was, don't trust this. It won't last. So starting something felt heavy, overwhelming, joyless. So what changed everything wasn't motivation. For me, it was lowering the bar on movement. I stopped asking myself, do I feel like working out? And I started asking the question, can I move for 5 minutes? 5 minutes felt safe. 5 minutes didn't activate my stress response. And once I started moving, my body remembered something that my brain had forgotten. Movement feels good once you start. And that's biology. When you move your body, dopamine increases. And that supports motivation. That supports motivation and reward. Serotonin increases. That supports supporting mood stability. Endorphins release. That reduces pain and increases pleasure. And one of the most important players here is BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It helps your brain adapt to stress. It improves learning and emotional resilience. It's strongly linked to lower anxiety and depression. And here's the key. BDNF responds more to consistency than intensity. Your brain doesn't care if the workout was impressive. It cares if it was repeatable. So I kept showing up. Not perfectly, not as a superhero, just consistently. And over time, something shifted. Movement stopped feeling like a decision. I wasn't deciding whether to go to the gym. It just started feeling like part of who I am. I am a person who goes to the gym. And that's when joy came in. Not because my workouts were amazing or super hard, but because my self-trust got stronger. Every time that I showed up, even for 5 minutes, and I still have this rule today, if I don't feel like going to the gym, I am there for at least 10 minutes. And if after those 10 minutes I don't really feel like being there anymore, I can leave. I've only done that a couple times. But every time I show up, even briefly, I send a message to my nervous system saying, I can trust myself. I can rely on myself. And that message matters because joy is deeply connected to agency, the felt sense that you have influence over your life. Strength-based movement reinforces that. Strength-based movement improves insulin sensitivity. It stabilizes your blood sugar. It reduces inflammation. It reduces inflammation, women, which is strongly linked to low mood and depression. Movement also helps build your body or helps your body clear stress hormones. So instead of that cortisol lingering around, movement processes it and moves it through your body. Your life doesn't change if you do strength-based movement, but your chemistry does. Your body chemistry actually changes. So here is how to use movement to support joy. First, make it small enough that you don't argue with it. 5 minutes counts. Second, prioritize consistency over intensity. Like I said, your brain builds trust through repetition. And third, include a strength training routine a few times a week in any form. That could be at home, that could be at the gym, wherever it feels good for you, but strength builds confidence, resilience, and emotional stability. And fourth, notice how you feel after, not before. Joy is often the echo of effort. Take a breath. Your body is not a project to fix, but it is a partner in building joy. So push-ups. And you know what? Actual push-ups, do them. And lastly, plants. Let's talk about what you put in your body. About 90% of serotonin is produced in your gut. Did you know that? 90% of serotonin is produced in your gut, which means gut health plays a major role in your mood. Plant-rich nutrition feeds those beneficial gut bacteria. Those bacteria produce compounds that reduce inflammation, notice the theme here, support brain health, and stabilize your mood. Again, that theme between pauses, push-ups, and plants, they all work together to do this. Plants also provide fiber, antioxidants, and micronutrients necessary for neurotransmitter production. And just like in the pauses and push-ups, this is not about perfection. This is about addition. So I often don't talk to my clients about removing things from their plate, but I talk to them about putting things on their plate. And for me, food for a long time felt like a test, like a math problem or a moral decision. I wasn't thinking about joy when I was eating, but something changed one day, and it wasn't willpower. It wasn't willpower. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, I'm just going to stop eating this and stop eating Cheetos and start eating spinach. But I changed my perspective about food. I stopped asking, what do I need to avoid? And started asking, what can I add? Just like I said, I'm not about avoiding, it's about adding. And when I started doing that, all those decisions about food kind of got quieter. And just like in pauses, remember, joy loves quiet. So here's how to support joy with nutrition. First, just like I just said, add before you restrict. And talking about adding, add more color, more fiber, more variety. Add things to your plate and it kind of just crowds out the space then for other things. Second, aim for one plant at every meal. That's it. You don't need a bunch, at least not to start. Just aim for one plant. What's your favorite? Is it green? That's even better, but just add one at every meal. Third, I want you to think about supporting your gut daily. Hydration matters, fiber matters, consistency matters. Remember, we talked about consistency when we talked about pauses and push-ups. Consistency matters here as well. And fourth, simplify. When nutrition feels easy, it becomes more sustainable. You know, one of the things that I love, and I am not sponsored for this, but I do love AG1 because it helps me be more consistent. I do like to eat a lot of greens in my diet, but sometimes, I don't know, I get busy. And when I include AG1, it's one habit, it's one scoop, it's one less decision, has all of the nutrients. I actually stopped taking vitamins. It supports my gut health, my energy, my recovery, all of which influence joy. So again, pauses, push-ups, plants. So let's bring this all back together. Joy is built through small, repeatable actions. Again, consistency. For pauses, breathe longer on the exhale. Pause between tasks. Reduce input during rest. For push-ups, lower the bar, move consistently, include strength training, notice how you feel after. For plants, add before you restrict. One plant per meal, support your gut daily. You don't need to do everything, you just need to do something consistently. Joy is not the reward for getting life right. Joy is the signal that you are aligned, and alignment is built through pauses, through push-ups, through plants. Remember, joy is a strategy. Use it. And from my heart to yours, I am celebrating you today and every day. So have fun, live well, enjoy.